Good day, dear students, and welcome back to our English class. Now, we had started with this chapter called Lost Beneath the Mountain, and we had seen how this chapter is about this boy who's just 10 years old who gets lost in a mine, and we had seen how this boy gets lost. So, it's a very tricky situation. Um, he was, or rather, there were two groups of boys that had gone inside the mine with the help of two different teachers. Okay, so we remember Kevin Weaver was the first teacher who had gone with the first group of boys. So we are assuming he must have taken 15 boys because there were a total of 30 boy scouts that had gone for the camp. Okay, so while exploring the mine, the first group was led by this teacher called Kevin Weaver, and the teacher has the torch, the students have no torch. So that is another thing that we remember. And the second thing we know is that there was a second group of students that were, taken care of by the other teacher, that is Terry Dennis. And Terry Dennis was standing at the back of the group, or the back of the group of boys, and he held his hand up with the torch. He had a torch in his hand. So what he did is he made sure that everyone in front gets the light that he was shining through his torch, as well as he can look at all the students in front of him. So that was the arrangement. They had gone inside the abandoned mine, that is hidden treasure mine. Okay, and we are told that while they were walking inside the mine and trying to look around, trying to explore this abandoned mine, they did not know the dangers, how dangerous this mine is, that there were dynamites inside the mine, or that there were deep pools of stagnant water, or that there were shafts. They had no idea how dangerous it was. They just go there out of the feeling of adventure, because the boys wanted to explore the place. That's why the teachers give it. Okay, but we had also looked at how this is a very careless thing to have done, because they just don't know how dangerous it really is. Okay, anyway, so we are told that while they were going in, because it is quite dark and everything, it's also pretty cold because there's no light that enters that place. One of the boys from the second group gets scared. Okay, so because this boy gets scared, Terry Dennis, that is the teacher of the second group, okay, he says, I will take this boy outside the mine. And he tells all the other students to continue with the other teacher. He says, the light can be seen, just follow the light and, go with the first group. He tells the second group of boys to go with the first group. Okay, so we are also told one more thing. In the second group of Terry Dennis, one of the students was his own son, that is Josh. Okay, so Josh, when his father tells all the other boys to go ahead with the other team, Josh, because his father is going out, he just turns around to look at his father. So he just watches as his father continues walking, and he sees that the light of his father's torch is slowly fading because the father is, moving further and further away. Okay, actually the word is not further, the word is father. Okay, further we use when it comes to a metaphorical situation. Father is used, F-A-R-T-H-E-R is used when it comes to distance. So in this case, even if I'm making a mistake, I want you to know it should be father, moving farther and farther away. Okay, so anyway, the light keeps moving farther away, and that is Josh, the son, he just looks at his father. Okay, so then when he turns back to continue with his other group members, he realizes that there is pitch darkness. There's no light whatsoever. He cannot see a single, classmate of his in that place. Okay, now he gets a little worried. He's wondering, just 1 minute I just looked at the back, and when I look back in front, nobody is around me. So he gets a little scared. So he says, okay, I can't go further. So he turns back to look at his father again. Okay, to see whether he can see the light, so at least he will go with his father, because he doesn't have any torch with him and there is no light there, he can't see anything. But unfortunately for him, by the time he turns back to follow his own father, there is no light there also. He cannot see his father at all. He cannot see any light. Okay, now this is when he realizes that he is in trouble, because he can't see anything and he doesn't know where to go. He doesn't know how to go out. He doesn't know how to continue and follow the other group. Anyway, we are told that he tries to find his way, because he can't see anything. He touches the walls of the mine, or the tunnels of the mine, and he tries to find his way out, and he thinks that he's almost reached the entrance, but he continues walking. He reaches a sort of a slopey area, but as he climbs up the slope, he realizes that he has not reached any entrance. He has reached different place altogether. Okay. When we stopped yesterday, we had seen that he has finally reached this very, like a pocket-sized, sort of a tiny room. It's not really a room, but it's like it's a small sort of it's like an enclosed space in the mine. So, and it is so small that he's a 10-year-old boy. He's not very tall, but his head bumps into the rocky wall on top. So you can just make out that it's like a small sort of a. It could have been a stope. It could have been like an excavated area. Okay, but it could have just been anything actually there. But it just, we are just told that it is a small thing, and he manages to, as he's walking, he manages to reach right there. Okay, now that is where we had stopped. Okay, so, and yes, when he reaches this small sort of a room in the mine, he realizes that he's completely lost. There is no way that he can come out, because he had not seen this room while coming inside the mine. So he knows that he has probably crossed the entrance area and he's reached somewhere else altogether. Okay, now we are told, we'll take it from there. For a moment, Josh considered retracing his path down the tunnel. So for a moment, he thought, he should again go back. Now he has moved further, no? So he felt like he should go back the same steps that he has walked, and that way he might again be able to find his entrance. Okay, so for a moment he was thinking, should I continue going back the same way that I came? I might just find the entrance. And that is when he says, then he remembered his mother Janine's advice: if you are lost, stay where you are. Okay, so he suddenly remembers what his mother had told him: if you ever get lost, stay where you are, people will somehow find you. So he decides to follow that advice. So he rubbed his icy hands, and you can just think of it, why are his hands icy? Icy is extremely cold. Okay, his hands are icy because he is in the mine where there is no light, so there is no heat. And another reason why his hand must be cold is because it is cold inside the mine because of the water. There is water in the mine, there is no sunlight whatsoever, so it is extremely cold inside the mine. Okay, so he is feeling really cold, so he just rubs his hand in order to provide himself some heat. Okay, so he rubs his hand and he stuck them in the pockets of his parka. Parka is the jacket that he was wearing, trying to keep himself warm. Now, please God, let someone find me soon. Now, this boy somehow has faith that God can help him. Nobody else but God can help him be found. Okay, so what he does is, as he is sitting down in that room, sort of that pocket-sized room, he prays to God that somebody should find him. Now, what is happening outside the mine? Outside, the youngsters waited, while the adults, armed with torches, headed into the tunnel. So this is obvious. All the other boys were kept outside the mine, and all the teachers, there were 11 teachers, all of them go inside the mine and they try to search for the lost boy, that is Josh. They divided into teams, checking tunnels and yelling for Josh. After searching the mine with no results, Dennis went to get the sheriff. So first, the school team, they try to search for Josh. When they cannot find him, they try their level best. When they cannot find him, they go and contact the police. Okay. Now, Sheriff Don Proctor is his name, a serious man with a determined set to his job, alerted the local country search and rescue team and a Salt Lake City search dog organization. So the in charge there, the chief police officer, that is Don Proctor, he was a very, now this expression, with a determined set to his job, it simply means that on his face you can just see determination. So he's not someone who is will give up easily, or he will not be interested. If he takes on something, he is very determined. He will make sure that the case is solved. That sort of a person he is. Okay, so immediately he alerts the local country search and rescue team. Okay, so local means of that place. There is a rescue team or organization. He contacts them, and he also contacts the Salt Lake City search dog organization. So you are aware of this. When people are missing, or especially when there are murderers on a run, rather the police will make use of search dogs, because the search dog can smell the person or the person's clothes and try and search for him. So they thought that it's better to use a search dog. So even that organization was contacted. Okay, by 1 a.m. So the boy gets lost somewhere in the evening. No, after at around 7 o'clock they go inside the mine. So somewhere around 7:30 or quarter to 8, Josh gets lost. So that same night, let's say at around 1 o'clock, these two teams are contacted, and they arrive right there. They don't wait for the next day. Right there, because it's an emergency. Okay, they come, and more than 24 members of the rescue team were fanning through the mine. So 24 is almost like 24, more than 24 members of the rescue team. They were spread all through the mine, and they're all trying to search for the boy. Okay, and of course remember, these are not any ordinary people. They are trained people. Okay, they are professional members of the rescue team. Okay, and if you remember earlier, when Skinner goes to the police station asking to help that dispatcher there, he says only people with rescue credentials, that means only these professional rescue people, only they are allowed inside the mine, because they will not get lost. The other people, there is a chance for them to get lost. Okay, so these people are already inside the mine, and they're trying to search for Josh. Soon after, the Salt Lake City searchers join them. This is the search dog team. So they also come. They centered the dogs on Josh's sleeping bag and combed the mine, yelling his name. So they first give the dog the smell of Josh, what Josh smells like, and they take the dogs inside the mine, and they keep yelling, keep screaming out for Josh. They want some response at least that Josh is around and he's still alive. Now, what does Josh do? So outside, it's a big lot of things going on, lot of excitement, lot of worry, lot of fear. That is the situation outside, lot of activity. Okay, but inside, Josh thought he heard distant voices. Now he can hear, because we are told that they are screaming, so he can hear some distant voices. Okay, and he screams, "Help! Help!" He yelled. "I am here, please help." But the tunnels swallowed his calls. Now this is the problem. He is screaming, they are also screaming, but they cannot hear each other clearly enough. That is why, especially when he screams, the tunnels, because of the different twists and turns, the voice gets cut. Okay, and his voice doesn't go and doesn't reach them. Okay, so this is another problem here, about being stuck in the tunnel. And of course, he cannot see anything. It's just pitch dark. Okay. Shivering in the dank 10 degrees Celsius chill, he prayed. Okay, so he's shivering in the dank. Dank means moist, it's wet because of the water around. Okay, and because it is also cold, it's just 10 degrees Celsius in the mine. So all he does is he prays. It's terribly cold out there. He has not eaten anything. He has not drunk any water, and he doesn't even know where he is. But all he can do is he can pray. So he prays that, "God, please let me get rescued." He pulled his parka over himself and drifted into a fitful sleep. Okay, so he takes the parka, the jacket, over him, and he tries to sleep. A fitful sleep means not a very sound or a very peaceful sleep. He can't have a peaceful sleep for obvious reason. He's so scared. He's scared that he will not be found. He's scared about what is going to happen next. So he can't peacefully sleep. So whatever little sleep he can get, he tries to sleep. Okay. But remember, this is the second time that he's praying to God. And it shows that, again, a 10-year-old boy, usually children don't know so much about prayer. They don't believe so much in God, or they don't have that much of faith. But this boy, since he's praying for the second time here, we can say something about him already. We know that this boy really has a lot of faith in God. Okay, so second time we are told that he prays to God. Okay, now we are told when there was still no sign of Josh by Saturday afternoon, word was sent to the boy's mother, and a friend drove her to the site. Now, Saturday afternoon, the boy gets lost on Friday evening. Friday after 7 o'clock he gets lost. So Saturday afternoon. So imagine, from Friday evening till Saturday afternoon, they are continuously searching for him. It's a lot of time. Okay, so when he was still not found by Saturday afternoon, the mother of the boy is informed, because the father is already there. The father was one of the teachers, so they have to inform the mother, because it's not right, because they are also wondering whether the boy is even alive. That is also running on their minds. Okay. Now, when the mother comes there, she says she remembered this Sunday before Josh disappeared. It had been his turn to give the home evening lesson, a Mormon tradition. He had told his family, if you have faith, you can do anything. Janine had said, you can do almost anything. No, Mum, Josh insisted, if you have faith, you can do anything. Janine prayed that his faith was with him now. Okay, so now we are told a little bit about the kind of a boy Josh was. Okay, so the mother, especially, she remembers that on the Sunday before this entire incident took place, it was Josh's turn to give the home evening lesson. And it's a Mormon tradition. Mormon is actually a group of Christians. So you know this, right? So in India, not sorry, in India, I'll talk about Goa. We have Catholics. Catholics are people like me. We go to church, we have the priest, we have nuns, we have the Pope and all these things. So we are called Catholics. And then we have a group of people called Christians. Okay, actually Catholics would be Christians, but Christians by and large are mostly these other people. Some people call them believers, some people call them Protestants, all these different groups. So there are many groups of Christians. Catholic is one of the main ones, but there are other people who do not believe in the Catholic tradition. They believe in Jesus and they believe in the other Christian gods, but they are not like Catholics. Okay, so it said that there are more than 3,000 different groups of Christians all over the world, and we are talking about US. In the US also there are different. There is the Anglican Church, there is the Baptist Church, and they are not like our church. They are not like how the Catholic Church is. They are slightly different. They don't have a priest the way we have. They have so-called priests that are married. It's very different. Okay, so Mormon is also it's a very old kind of a sect. It's called a sect. It's a group. So he belongs to that group of Christianity, Mormon. Okay, so one of the rituals or one of the practices of the Mormons was every Sunday they would have to give means they had to share whatever they learned about God or about the Bible or whatever it is. So it had been his turn to share about God, something about God, say something about God during the family prayer session. Okay, so when it was his turn, he said this very important statement. He says, if you have faith, you can do anything. Okay, faith means they're talking about faith in God. So if you have faith in God, you can do anything. This is what Josh had said. So his mother, she's an adult, so she doesn't want him to simply believe anything. So she says, it's not that you can do anything. If you have faith, you can do almost anything. There are certain things that even if you have faith, you will not be able to do. That is what she's trying to tell him. But when she says you can do almost anything, Josh interrupts her and he says, no, Mom, if you have faith, you can do anything. So he's saying, I'm not being innocent here. Just because I'm a child, I'm not being innocent. What I believe is that if you have faith, you can do anything that you want, you will be able to do it if you have faith in God. Okay, so Janine prayed that his faith was with him now. So Janine was saying, she starts praying to God that I hope my son does not lose his faith, because you also know this, when a person is in a difficult situation, it is very important for them not to lose faith, not to lose hope, because the minute they lose faith or hope, then they will stop trying. They will stop expecting that they will be saved, that they will be rescued, and then they will actually die. Okay, so she prays that he has that faith, because if he has that faith, he will not get too worried, or he will still try to get rescued. Okay, so she just prays to God that he has faith right now, especially right now, because it's a very difficult situation. Then we are told, ever since his offer to help was turned down, John Skinner had thought about the boy in the mind. Now, if you remember, John Skinner was that one person who has a very good idea about the mind, Why? Because when he was young, his grandfather used to be the in charge. He was the superintendent of that particular mine. Okay, so when he was young, John Skinner had, explored the mine in and out several times. So he knew all the spaces or all the shafts, all the deep pools of water, all the stopes, everything inside the mine. Okay, so and he wanted to help. He wanted to help, but the dispatcher said you can't help because he doesn't have, he's not a professional rescue person. Okay, so we are told that ever since his offer to help was turned down, that means he was rejected by the police, John Skinner had thought about the boy in the mind. So John Skinner continuously thinks about the boy. At church on Sunday, he prayed for Josh's safety. After the service, he drove to a dirt road that branched towards hidden treasure mine. A policeman stopped him. I think I can help find that lost boy, Skinner said. Okay, now before I move on to the next page, I just want you to look at a few things here. We are told that it is Sunday now. Okay, boy got lost on Friday evening. Saturday is over, now it is Sunday, and all Christians go to their whichever church on Sunday, right? So on Sunday he goes for his prayer service, and after the prayer service and during the prayer service also he prays that this boy is safe. That is, John Skinner prays for Josh's safety. Okay, after the service, this time he goes to the place, he goes to hidden treasure mine. Okay, now I also want you to remember that earlier we were told that John Skinner is a very shy, a very quiet, a very unassuming kind of a man. So when the policeman told him that you cannot help, he doesn't try to argue with the policeman, he just says okay and he goes back. But for some reason this time there is a little more courage that we see in John Skinner. Something is telling him you need to go and help the boy. That is why this time he directly goes to the mine. He doesn't go to the police station because he knows what they will say in the police station. So he directly goes to the mine because he is hoping he will, from the mine quietly, he will enter the abandoned mine and he will find the boy. That is what he is hoping. But unfortunately, as he reaches close to the mine, hidden treasure mine, there are policemen there also. So one of the policemen stopped him, and Skinner says, he is there because he thinks he can help to find the lost boy. Let's see whether the policeman will listen to him. We are told, sorry, the policeman answered, we have too many people on the mountain. So he says, we can't let you because we already have too many people already in the mountain, and they're all professionals, so definitely they will be able to find the boy. Skinner tried again. I have been in that mine hundreds of times. So he's trying to say, I know that I'm not a professional rescue person, but I know that mine very well, which none of the other people know because they have not been in that mine. I have been in that mine hundreds of times. The policeman stood his ground. That means the policeman was firm. He said, no means no. I have got my orders. And we know that the policeman is not making this up. There were actually orders that only people with rescue credentials should be allowed inside the mine. Okay. So very reluctantly Skinner drove home. So very, he was not happy with it. He did not want to, but he just goes home. And also, understand why Skinner is offering his help again. See, the boy got lost on Friday. Saturday has passed, they are searching continuously without stopping, they are searching, but the boy still hasn't been found. Today it is Sunday, it is like the third day that the boy is lost. So the more time they take, the more the chances are that they may find him, but he may be dead because he's without food or water or even sunlight. It can be too cold for him. He can die because of the cold. Anything can happen. Okay, so he really wants to help and he knows that he can help, but they don't allow him. The policemen just don't allow him. So he says to himself, somehow, no, he doesn't say it to himself. He told Chris is his wife, I will find a way to get up there. Get up there means get on the mountain, and from the mountain to go into the mine. Okay. Josh, now if we go inside the mine, what is happening with Josh? We look at that. Josh had no idea if it was day or night. Why? Because there is no light inside the mine, and a lot of time has passed. He has no idea. Okay. So his feet were numb. Because of the cold. It's too cold out there, so his feet are numb. He can't even feel his own feet. Okay. At times, he thought he heard voices of footsteps. He yelled for help, but there was never a reply. He pulled his parka tighter, shivering. Okay, so this is also true. There are voices. We know that people are in the mind searching for him. So he can hear their voices, but they can't hear his voice. And he is stuck in a sort of a small room. So it's not like he's in the tunnel, or in the passageways. He is somewhere else altogether. Okay, so they can't see him very clearly. Okay. Now we are told praying comforted him. Josh discovered as he drifted off to sleep, he pictured guardian angels hovering over him. A voice inside him spoke, I will be rescued. Now, this boy's faith in God is so strong that the only thing in his hunger, in his cold, and in his thirst, the only thing that helps him is prayer. So every time he is worried, every time he gets anxious, he just prays to God, and that comforts him. That brings him a lot of peace. Okay, then and so much so that even when he goes to sleep, he can imagine, he can see that although he's in a very, very, difficult situation, almost impossible, I can say, sort of a situation, he believes that there are angels watching over him. Hovering over him means they're moving on top of him and they're just protecting him. Okay, and inside his voice, inside him, he hears this voice saying that he will be rescued. Okay, then we are told on Monday morning, Skinner decided to try again. Now, you have to also, think about what is it with Skinner. Why is this man not giving up? Okay, and he's not, a very determined person, or he's not a very bold person. He's actually a very shy sort of a person, and he doesn't like to argue with anyone. Okay, yet this man doesn't seem to give up. Okay, so what is it? It's very unusual. He's behaving very differently. But why is this man not giving up again and again, despite being told that he will never be allowed to enter the mine? Why is this man continuously trying? Question is it because somewhere down the line, Josh's prayers are being answered? Because Josh is praying that he will be rescued. So is Skinner the person that can actually rescue Josh? And if Skinner is the person, then is it God's doing that again and again Skinner is trying to enter the mine, which otherwise he would never do because he's a very shy person? It's just a question for you to think about. Okay, so on Monday morning, so he's been rejected already 2 times. This is the 3rd time he's trying. So on Monday morning, we are told that Skinner decided to try again. At the roadblock, he talked to the policeman who had turned him back. I know every bit of that mine, he said. You have got to help me up there. But he was once more turned away. So this is the 3rd attempt that he makes to enter the mine. And unfortunately, even this time, that same policeman tells him, please go back. We don't need your help at all. Please go back. Now, he goes back, but he's unable to sleep that night. Skinner visualized different areas where the boy might be trapped. A large, mined-out ore body called the Resolute Stope seemed most likely. Small passageways led off the slope. Maybe he is in one of those. Okay, so Skinner is not able to sleep because 3 times, the policeman have told him to go back, and they themselves have not been successful in trying to find the boy. Remember, boy got lost on Friday evening. Saturday is over, Sunday is over, Monday is also over, because we are told that on Monday night he's going to sleep and he's thinking where the boy would have been. Because clearly by now they have looked at almost all areas. Still the boy is not found. They're continuously searching him. So Skinner is wondering which area they could have missed. There must be some interior areas which these people must have missed. Okay, so he says there could be this place called the Resolute Stope. Now I'll just show you a picture of what is a stope. It's a very interesting thing. So if you can see, this is a mine. It's a picture of it, but a stope is a place like this. So what happens is that they have removed the ore or the mineral that they have to remove from this mine, and after they have removed it, the gap is left behind. Okay, so the gap where the mineral was, that is just left behind. So it becomes like a small sort of a cave. Okay, so in most mines they have things like that. So once you remove it, it just remains like that itself. So it's like a small room that is inside the mine. So this is a stope. Okay, and most of the mines will have it, especially when the ore was quite big. In this case, you can just see the size of the mineral or the ore that was there. So accordingly, the stop will be found. Okay, and it remains there. If you abandon the mine, the stop will also remain right there. Okay, so there is a place like this. So Skinner thinks that okay, maybe he's stuck in one of those stops and they have not noticed it. Maybe they walk like this, or somewhere else, and they did not notice that the boy is actually in one of these stops. Maybe. Okay, that is what Skinner is thinking. Okay, and there are small passageways that lead up the slope. So from the slope also there are other passageways that go even further and deeper down. Okay, so maybe they did not go that side. Maybe he's in one of those. So he thinks maybe Josh is stuck in one of those slopes. Okay, so now it is Tuesday evening. Monday is also over. Tuesday is also coming to an end. It's in the evening. So Skinner is watching TV. Skinner watched TV as officials said that they believe the mine had been thoroughly searched. So he's watching the news and people say that the mine is thoroughly searched. To prevent further mishaps, authorities plan to seal the mine off as soon as the rescue efforts was abandoned, perhaps the next day. Now this is a shock. Okay, Skinner did not think, neither did most of the people think that they will seal the mine off completely when that boy still has not been found. Okay, they believe that since from Friday till not Tuesday evening, continuously they searched for the boy and they could not find him. They said that this case is hopeless. Probably he's dead and they can't even find his dead body. Okay, so they decide that they will close the mine to prevent any further accident. Mishaps means accidents. Okay, so this is Tuesday evening. On Wednesday, most probably they will seal it. So completely locked. Nobody will be able to enter that mine again. That is the decision that they have taken, and it has come on the news. It's a big deal. And by the way, when this incident actually happened, we are told that it became national news. Everywhere in the US, people were only talking about this boy because it had never happened like that a boy had been lost for so many days and so many teens are sent and the boy was still not found. Okay. Now we are told Skinner was aghast. They can't do that. He's in there, so he was mad, and he was also greatly shocked that how can you do that, and how can you do that because the boy, there is still chance. No, the dead body has not been found. What if the boy is alive? And if the boy is alive, what if you are locking the mine, and because you've locked the mine, you are killing him inside? Maybe he will find his way out, but you're sealing everything inside. It's not fair. It's not fair to give up without finding him. You at least need to find his dead body. Till then there is still hope, right? So he says you can't do this. The boy is still inside there, and there is a chance that he's still alive. You can't give up so fast. That is what Skinner thinks. So on Wednesday morning, now this is Tuesday evening, he can't go that night. Next morning itself, Wednesday morning, Skinner drove up to Hidden Treasure Mine again. Remember this is the fourth time that Skinner is trying to enter the mine. Usually again what happens is we try 3 times. If it doesn't work, we believe that okay, this is not meant to be, and we give up. But for some reason, Skinner is not at peace and he knows that he has to enter the mine. Okay, so 4th time, he knows what will happen. He knows what the policeman will say, but he still goes the 4th time to the mine. The policeman on roadblock duty this time was a childhood friend who let him through. Now, miracle or not, luck or chance or not, this time the policeman there who was blocking the road, making sure no unnecessary person enters the mine, that policeman was a childhood friend because Skinner was from that area itself. Okay, so this time this policeman allows him to go to the mine. Okay, now I think I need you to think about why. When everything was going, when the case was almost closed, how did this person suddenly come? And how did this time, how was it the case that the policeman was a childhood friend? Why was it not the case earlier? Okay, and what if this time the friend was not, the policeman that was there was not a friend? You tend to wonder whether this was God already working on this particular case, whether this was God creating favorable situations so that Skinner could actually enter the mine. See, everything works in the favor. He tries, despite being very sad, or not sad, despite being very shy, he tries a 4th attempt, and this time he is allowed to enter the mine. Okay, I'll go a little further and then we can stop. Yes, so we are told only a handful of people were left. So most of the rescue team members had already quitted the operation. They had gone home, or already quit the operation, and they had gone home. And then Skinner went to the sheriff and said, so he goes to the main policeman and he says, my grandfather used to be a superintendent of this mine, and I know a couple of areas that might have been missed. Have you checked the pockets of the Resolute stove? So clearly he says, I don't, I'm not saying your team is not good, or the rescue team and all, they are not good. They are good, but there are certain areas that they could have missed. So have the team members checked the Resolute stove? So Ray Gaiman, the leader of the UPNL team, that is the rescue team, was consulted. You know what you're talking about, Gaiman said. The sheriff agreed to one last effort. Okay, so again, you can call this a miracle, because here, when they're about to give up, they are tired. Remember this, they are tired. They have tried every possible way to search for the boy. They have not been successful at it, but now they agree to one last attempt to find the boy, and if they don't find him, then they're going to seal it. Okay, so Ray Gaiman, who is the in charge of the rescue team, he speaks to the the main police officer, that is Sheriff Don Proctor, and together they decide this is the last time. If we don't find him now also, we'll have to seal the mine. Okay, again, is it a miracle? Question mark. Okay, so we will stop right here. We will complete the chapter in the next class. Thank you.